Ever dream of living in a fairy tale kingdom with majestic castles and noble rulers? Think again. The reality of life under ancient kings was far from magical. Let's expose the myths. Hollywood paints a picture of chivalry and honor, but what was daily life really like? Was it all grand balls and jousting tournaments? The truth is much darker than you imagine. Let's start with the king himself. You picture a wise, benevolent leader, right? But what if your king was a paranoid tyrant who saw enemies lurking in every shadow? Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Imagine a single man's whim deciding your fate, your family's fortune, and even your life. This terrifying reality was the norm for millions. Did you know many kings claimed divine right, believing God chose them to rule? This meant defying the king was like defying God himself, a truly terrifying prospect for believers. Forget magnificent feasts for everyone. Most people starved while the king and his court indulged in lavish banquets. What did the common folk eat? Gruel, if they were lucky. Let's talk about justice. Was it fair and impartial? Not a chance. The king's word was law, and the rich could often buy their way out of any trouble. Imagine being accused of a crime. Your trial might be a trial by ordeal, like holding a hot iron. If you healed, you were innocent. Sound fair to you? And what about those glorious castles? They weren't just beautiful homes. They were fortresses designed to control and intimidate. The king's personal life was a public spectacle. His marriage wasn't about love. It was a political tool to forge alliances. Royal women were often just pawns in a deadly game. What happened if the king had no male heir? This single issue could plunge an entire nation into a bloody civil war over succession. Let's debunk the myth of the noble knight. Many were just glorified thugs, enforcing the king's brutal will. Think taxes are bad now? Ancient peasants often paid with more than half their harvest, leaving their own families to face starvation. It funded the king's extravagant lifestyle and his endless wars. Your hard-earned food was literally fueling conflicts. Most people were serfs, legally tied to the land they worked. They were property, bought and sold with the estate. What about health and hygiene? Castles and cities were incredibly unsanitary. Disease was rampant, and a simple infection could be a death sentence. Royal doctors relied on bizarre treatments like bloodletting. Got a headache? They'd drain your blood. It was pure butchery. War wasn't glorious combat. It was brutal, messy, and fought by conscripted peasants who would rather be home. The king rarely fought on the front lines. He directed the chaos from a safe distance, while thousands died for his ambition. Education was a privilege reserved for the very wealthy. The vast majority of the population was kept illiterate and ignorant. An uneducated populace is easier to control. Kings knew this. By denying knowledge, they ensured their power remained unchallenged. Criticizing the king, even in private, could lead to torture, imprisonment, or a very public and painful execution. Entertainment was often watching public executions, a gruesome spectacle meant to instill fear and obedience. Royal succession was a blood sport. Brothers plotted against brothers, and the path to the throne was paved with bodies. Life expectancy was shockingly low. Life was a constant struggle against famine, disease, and violence. Royal courts were hotbeds of intrigue and betrayal. A careless word or a wrong glance could mean your downfall. Religious freedom was a foreign concept. Worshipping the wrong way could get you branded a heretic. Kings often had official food tasters. Assassination by poison was a constant threat, even from family members. Kings were not chosen for their merit, but by accident of birth. An entire nation's fate could rest with a cruel fool. The gap between the rich and poor was a chasm. The nobility lived in a different world, detached from the suffering. And what if the king was insane? History is filled with mad monarchs whose reigns brought immense suffering and chaos. So next time you see a movie about a glorious kingdom, remember the brutal reality. it was a world of oppression. The fairy tale image is just that, a fairy tale. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.